There are reporters who cover the NBA and know the NBA, and then there is Dave McMenamin, because he's above them all. And not just because he went to Syracuse and he's celebrating the victory over North Carolina a couple of nights ago, but because he's on the phone and he's joining us live after, I believe, the rookie practice live in Indianapolis, the center of the sports world, the next couple of weeks. ESPN's number one reporter and number one fantastic beard, Dave McMenamin. How are you?
I'm doing well. Andrew, did you pick up Brockman on your way to the studio in your Ferrari, just like
yes, back in the day?
100%.
Yeah.
No, Dave, I drove in my electric vehicle from the South Bay, and Chris drove from the Valley with a car seat in the back seat, I'm assuming, and we did not pick each other. You want to do this another time, though?
We can, yeah, sure.
Yeah. We might go to Riviera, though, after this, Dave. It's a shame you're not in town. Yeah.
Together but separate.
Exactly. Dave McMenamin, how is Indy as an all-star town?
It's it's a great walkable city, and so just in terms of like trying to get to the logistics of event to event, definitely 2 thumbs up. A little colder than many of the people here would like, but suck it up. You know, there's 30 NBA teams. They're going to be in some cold cities every once in a while. I'm just hoping that Sunday can be better than Sunday was last year. The All-Star Game was an absolute joke in Salt Lake City to cap a pretty good weekend. And I hope, from Adam Silver's comments, certainly it was identified by the league that it needs to be better. I hope the Players Association and really the player leaders take that to heart, and we get a little bit more of that competitive edge, kind of what we heard in that promo spot, Rashad talking to Rich about MJ back in the day. The player pride is what's going to change the All-Star Game. And you don't have to treat it like Game 7 of the NBA Finals, but also don't treat it like, Game 4 of the preseason.
You said you hope. I think we all hope, but do you think it actually will be better? And if so, put a number on it. I mean, is it 10% better? I mean, we're not, as you said, going to see Game 7. That's not going to, Game 7's not walking through that door, but what does walk through that door?
I think you need to have some semblance of, we're going to shelf the idea of we're not going to play hard till the fourth quarter. You can't go through 3 quarters and then expect everybody just to flip the switch. Now, okay, are you going to be closing out on a guy and potentially have your foot, be below them when they land on a 3-point shot? No, but also at the same time, let's not just play Olay defense and just allow everything be a traipse to the lane for a wide open dunk or a wide open kick out for 3. Take some pride in the product. And again, it will come down to the players. There was a reason why when Michael Jordan was the best player in the league, the games looked a certain way. When Kobe was the best player in the league, the games looked a certain way. Guess what? Where LeBron, KD, and Steph are, they are beyond the point of needing to be they are still the faces of the game. But we're talking about guys in year 17 and 18 and 21. It shouldn't be their responsibility to be the guys who set the tenor. I need guys like Nikola Jokic and Giannis and Luka Doncic, them to be the guys who set the standard of what this game should be.
Hey, you mentioned LeBron there, talking to Dave McMenamin from ESPN live from Indy here on the phone as we are into All-Star Weekend for the NBA. Dave, you know the Lakers as well as anyone that we could get on this show. How would you, at the break here, with the Lakers sitting in 9th in the West, how would you characterize the relationship between LeBron and the Lakers?
It's a business relationship. LeBron coming to Los Angeles, it was always a bit of a mercenary role. He was coming to be able to live his overall 360 life for him and his family and his business interests and align them all with a competitive basketball atmosphere. And he was taking a team that had missed the postseason for 6 straight years and was kind of wandering out in the desert, leading them back towards the oasis. He's already had a championship. He's had several postseason appearances in his time in L.A. His goal is to be able to play competitive basketball for the rest of his days in the NBA. That generally aligns with what the Lakers' goal is. The push-pull will be, will the Lakers continue to be willing to put all their assets to the center of the table to make the team as competitive as possible in the time that LeBron James is in uniform? If LeBron starts to get the hint that that may not be the case, and I'm not saying that won't be the case. I've reported that the Lakers have, even though they didn't do anything at the trade deadline, they were very much looking forward to the possibility of what they could acquire this summer, armed with 3 first-round draft picks, armed with medical contracts, and also draft swaps going forward. Can that get you a player of the ilk of a Donovan Mitchell, a Trae Young, a Mikal Bridges? If the Lakers show that they are committed to do that while LeBron's still in uniform, there's no reason why LeBron won't retire with the Los Angeles Lakers.
All right. Your colleagues at ESPN had that wild Warriors called about LeBron story at the deadline. Did he even, from what you know, begin to entertain that? Did it ever get to him?
By my understanding, it did get to him. And in the same breath, by my understanding, there was no entertaining, other than maybe a bit of flattery that, the guy who was, you look back at LeBron's career, it's really been shaped by 2 players when it comes to NBA Finals. It's Tim Duncan and Steph Curry. So one of the 2 guys, the principal nemesi that
I've heard it both ways.
would want to team up with him. That's a bit of that's a nice little ego boost, right? But beyond that, quite frankly, in my opinion, it never should have gotten to the point where it did. Included in that story from Ramona Shelburne and Adrian Wojnarowski was the tidbit that Daryl Morey called about trying to trade for LeBron, and Rob Pelinka, who took the call in that instance, said, we can talk if Joel Embiid's available, which immediately stops the conversation. When the conversation happened between Joe Lacob, the Warriors' principal governor, and Jeannie Buss, the Lakers' principal governor, Jeannie's response was, you should probably talk to LeBron's agent. What Jeannie should have said is, Steph Curry available? And then it would have stopped there.
Right. Klay Thompson might be available, talking to Dave McMenamin. Klay moving to the bench, obviously. We're all close with Klay's dad. I used to work with him every day, the great Michael Thompson, Laker broadcaster. Remember when Klay was a kid coming into the 710 ESPN studios downtown in Los Angeles, and now here he is, champion, one of the greatest of all time. But he's coming off the bench, and it is a different world. He is set to be a free agent, right? This is the end of his deal.
Yeah, he's, that's an additional layer to the pressure he's put on his shoulders this year. Not just trying to get the Warriors back to the standard they've established over the last 10 years, but also play at a high enough level to secure himself his last big contract, really.
So, but this is it, right? I mean, we're seeing the end of Klay Thompson, one final run here with the Warriors.
I would believe so. Now, you hope that he can reinvent himself in this role and establish value where you're not just kind of paying him for previous service, because if you actually look at what he's doing on the court right now, he's maybe a full taxpayer mid-level exception type of player. If he can reinvent himself, and he mentioned the name Manu Ginobili as someone he wants to embody in this 6-man role moving forward, then perhaps he would be worthy of the type of contract. But, he wants to get paid the way that Draymond Green was paid last summer. And, you talk about all the faults that Klay's had this year for the team. He's been available, unlike Draymond. And, if you want to play the comparison game, then wouldn't he also be worthy of getting that one last big contract to be a part of whatever Mike Dunleavy can do to allow Steph Curry to try to make one last, bite at the apple? Because 4 championships is one conversation, and I mean, no one's going to take anything away from your career. But if you get to 5 and 6, I mean, you are in really hallowed ground in NBA history.
And rarefied air, obviously, here. All right, you mentioned Joel Embiid here, Dave McMenamin. What is his timeline? Do we have any idea when he could be back?
So we're, obviously the NBA schedule is just a vortex, and it's hard for me to remember days sometimes or what city I'm in. but I think we're roughly 2 weeks removed from the meniscus surgery that he underwent. And so we're talking about an update about a month from now. Let's say things are looking good at that point. You assume at least a 2-week ramp up at that point. So if everything goes as well as can be, he could return to the court with about 3 weeks left to go in the regular season, which one would think would be enough time to get your rhythm back and kind of acclimate himself to some of the new pieces that the Sixers picked up at the trade deadline and be in a decent place heading into the playoffs. But again, if things don't look good, if things aren't coming along as the team would hope, you almost have to wonder, because we've seen teams do this with stars in the past, where they think it's not worth it, and we're going to try to allow the player to have the full, off season to rehab it as well. And the Sixers just kind of punt on this season and wait for next year.
I was going to ask you an MVP question, but let me do this final question here. Let's say that does happen. Is there any league concern in a day and age in which we're concerned about players and load management taking nights off? If a player comes back or he should be back from an injury and they just decide to shut him down in this day and age?
It's a fair question. I think this is kind of the slippery slope the league has created for themselves in managing injuries. That, how are you actually to tell a team's medical staff that you don't believe them, or that their information isn't as good as your information when you're the outsider as a league? And so I have a hard time believing, considering that we know that for sure in this instance there was a medical procedure that happened, that the league would have any jurisdiction to point to an accelerated timeline for an injury recovery, right? If there was no surgery or it was just a rest situation, perhaps the league could have a leg to stand on. But I think, considering that he went under the knife, it's kind of all bets are off, and you have to wait to see how his body will recover and respond.
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation, because if a team is in a position where it's like, listen, we're not going to make the playoffs. Sixers aren't in that, right? But we're not going to make the playoffs. Why risk further injury? Let's give this guy an off season. Let's shut him down. It shouldn't be a big deal, but in this day and age, it's viewed a lot differently. Regardless, McMenamin, it was an honor to have you as always. But more importantly, I know you're a busy man, and we're juggling schedules here. So thanks for hopping on the phone. Don't have too much fun in Indianapolis, and tell the NBA to make sure it's still there when we roll in for the NFL in 2 weeks.
I will hide something in St. Elmo's for you.
Oh, amazing! Ooh, Dave McMenamin hiding a bottle of cocktail sauce, maybe downstairs in the private room, because I have no doubt that you're a private room at Elmo's downstairs kind of guy. Well done.
We'll see what type of table Woj gets for us.
Okay, there you go. Thanks, Dave. Have a good time this weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Dave McMenamin from ESPN.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.